Okay, this video is for subtracting polynomials. When you subtract polynomials, you'll notice that the problems are set up with parentheses. And your first step is always going to be to get rid of those parentheses. Okay? When you add or subtract a polynomial, all you're doing is combining like terms. And I'll show you what I mean here with number one. If I have this parentheses right here. Let's zoom in so it's a little easier to see. So we have this parentheses. It's the same thing as saying 1 times all of those. So 1 times 9x is just 9x, and 1 times negative 4 is still negative 4. And with that in mind, we look at this next one. That's the same thing as saying negative 1 times all of that. So negative 1 times 3x is minus 3x. And negative 1 times 2 is minus 2. Now if we rearrange this, we can see where they start to come in handy. Let's put all the x's up front. So 9x, and then we have negative 3x, and then we have negative 4 and negative 2. Well, if we have 9x's, so if we just go off to the side here and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we take away 3 of them, see how we're being asked to take away 3 x's? Well, just 1, 2, 3. What's left? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can just say, okay, we have 9x's minus 3x's. 9 minus 3 is 6x. And now we combine these two. Negative 4 and negative 2 would give us negative 6. And that's the answer. You can't simplify any further than that. Okay, let's look at the next one. Again, we have, it's like putting a 1 in front of the parentheses. 1 times 3x squared is just that, 3x squared. And then we have 1 times 8 is plus 8. Okay, and then if we continue on, it's like putting a 1 here. Negative 1 times 2x squared is negative 2x squared. And then negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And when we put all the x's in front, we have 3x squared. And then we have a negative 2x squared. And a positive 8 and a negative 1. So positive 8 and a negative 1. So now we have all our x's together. If we have 3 x's or 3x squareds or 3 smiley faces or 3 butterflies, it doesn't matter. Treat that as just an object. We have 3 of these objects, and we're taking away 2 of those objects. We have 1 left, so that leaves us with just x squared. And we have 8 of something minus 1 of something. 8 minus 1 is 7. Okay, so that's all you're doing on the first section. You're just going through and combining like terms. Now, it gets a little more tricky. Like if I were to go down here, say to number 7. Okay, again, it's like a 1 up here. So 1, number 7, sorry. 1 times x to the 5th is just x to the 5th minus x to the 4th plus 3x to the 3rd plus x squared. Okay, now there's 2 ways to do this. We can keep going across and then combine everything, and that will work. But the way I do it is I just say, okay, now I'm going to convert all these signs, because that's like negative 1 times 9x to the 5th would be negative 9x to the 5th. So you see how I'm just doing it on top of each other? Because there's so many variables, I got to keep them separate. So negative 1 times a negative 4, so that's a positive 4x to the 4th. Negative 1 times 3x to the 3rd would give me negative 3x to the 3rd. Negative 1 times a negative 5x would be a positive 5x. Okay, actually that wouldn't be under x squared, that's on its own here. So see how I'm lining up the x fifths, x to the fourths, x cubed, there's no x squareds, and then just the x out by itself. So now we can combine them. If we have a positive x and a negative 9x, that gives us a negative 8x to the fifth. We have positive 4 and negative 1, that gives us a positive 3x to the fourth. We have positive 3 and negative 3, so that's just 0. Those cancel out. We have a positive x squared and 0, so positive x squared and a positive 5x. And that's the answer right there. So if you have a lot, you can just put them on top of each other and just think of them as positive 9x and negative 9, or negative 9x and positive x. Positive 4x, negative x, and then just combine them. But they have to be like, they have to be the same thing. So the x to the fourths can only be combined with the x to the fourths, and so on. Okay, so that gives us those. Now on the second side, so we have part 2, it says it wants you to create your own example. All you have to do is come up with your own stuff, and you can use the examples they give here. Subtract a first degree binomial from a second degree binomial. Okay, we'll read through here, and it talks about what the degrees are and what a binomial is. A binomial is two terms. A degree is the exponent for the highest term. So right there we have 5x to the 1. I was circling it, not writing 0. 5x to the 1, so that's a first degree. We have a 2, so that would be a second degree. 3x cubed, that would be a third degree. Whatever that highest exponent is, that's your degree. So when it says subtract a first degree binomial from a second degree trinomial, it's like saying, okay, first degree binomial, so it's, let's use this example here, 5x minus 6, we're subtracting that from a second degree trinomial. So we go to a trinomial here, here's the second degree. So now we have, for example, 2x squared plus 4x minus 1 has to be in parentheses, and you subtract my monomial, or binomial, 5x minus 6, and that has to be in parentheses. And then you just go through, and just like you're multiplying a 1 through to everything here, and you have 2x squared plus 4x minus 1, and then negative 1 times 5 would be negative 5x and positive 6. So now we can combine everything. How many x squareds do we have? Nothing else, so we have 2x squared. And what a lot of people do is they'll cross it off at that point and say, okay, now we move on. 4x and negative 5x gives me negative 1x, or just negative x. Doesn't matter if you put the 1. Okay, and so now we're going to cross that off, and move on. Negative 1 plus 6 is plus 5. Okay, so you see you can just, put them like that. But that's what a first degree, second degree, third degree is. And a monomial only has one term. Bi means 2. Tri means 3. So see how there's 3 terms? So anyway, that's how you do number 9, 10, and 11. I hope this helps.